For this week's screencast for alternate history, I'm doing mine on the UR-2 computer from the Soviet Union. It was the Soviets' version for competing with the United States IBM 700s and the UNIVAC. Even though it was farly inferior compared to IBM, it still had processing powers that could compete. Now, during the 60s, the US and the Soviet Union were an arms race, in a technological arms race, competing who could do what. We were pumping out first guidance rocket systems and ICBM missiles, and the Soviets would follow. Compared to while the Soviets had the first man circumvent the Earth and the first satellite in space. Now, just look at it this way. In an alternate history, if this supercomputer had the same capabilities as the United States did, history as we know it could be changed. It is no known secret fact that the Soviet Union had spies in the U.S. during the 50s and 60s that were constantly after our technological and military secrets. It is no secret that during the 50s, Soviet spies managed to get their hands on our plans for our nuclear weapon systems, and the Soviets made a complete copy of it. Now, in an alternate history, if this computing power was greater than the U.S., what would happen? Well, this is an idea of what would happen. With greater technological power than the U.S. and the Western powers, the Soviet Union would grow into a massive superpower. They would be able to have advanced technologies that would be more superior to the U.S. With better computer systems, they could have improved guidance weapon systems, better technological advances to where their culture and society could be better than what it is today. It is no secret that our technology and our technology is what led to our advancement in weapons. But imagine if the Soviets had this technology. They would have had weapons that would have made the Western countries shake to their boots. They would have had capabilities of having the technology of great quantities. Just imagine it. Having the Soviets pour millions of dollars into the computer industry, and then it paying off with them being able to have the world's first supercomputer, them having the world's first ability to create the first artificial intelligence. And alternate history could be altered very fast if this was possible. Think of it like this: with the UR-2 being the world's best computer, the Soviets would have better computing power than the US. They would be able to have better guidance systems in their rockets. They would have far superior ships, planes, and vehicles and tanks compared at the time. They would be a technological powerhouse in the world to where most countries would be afraid to mess with them. Think about it. Think about how fearful it would be to have a nuclear warhead that the Soviets could launch with a guidance system that could not be fried by EMPs or couldn't be intercepted by guidance systems. Imagine that. Imagine them having computer powers to create microchips that would, if they were to launch a nuclear weapon at, let's say, France, and France was to launch interceptor-based missiles, that these guidance systems could emit a small EMP that would fry these interceptor missiles. Alternate history could be completely different if the fact that they had a more superior computing power than today. It's a scary thought to think about it, that if they had the same technological systems as we did, the Cold War would be a different place. It could have turned into an actual war overnight. And think about it as this way in an alternate history. With that power, who's to say that the Soviets wouldn't just decide to conquer the entire world as it known and spread the fascist communism regime that they've had all throughout the world? This has been Robert Hurd. This has been my screencast for alternate history for history of computer science. Hope you enjoyed it, Professor.